Hey guys, it's Holy Taboo and welcome to my podcast. So this time on the podcast, we're going to be talking about the very controversial thing that has gone off in BDO recently, which is the Afuaru's map. Now, with me in the podcast, I have two very good friends, Lone Wolf and Disty. So Lone, would you like to introduce yourself, talk about your gaming history very quickly?
Yep, I'm Lone Wolf. I'm a bit of an old gamer. I started MMOs back in the days of Ultima Online, EverQuest, went through the usual WoW and many others, Final Fantasy 15, and BDO for me is probably one of, if not the best MMO that's come out in a long, long time.
Yeah, excellent. And the first MMO, of course, because, you know, it's the best. And Disney, same question for you.
Yeah, I've played BDO since launch as a Zerker, although currently fairly inactive. Started previously in FPSs, etc., but likewise went on to World of Warcraft when it released as well in vanilla.
Fantastic. So, first question to both of you. Have you experienced or been involved in or seen hacking going off in any of your gaming histories?
Just a bit. It comes standard with gaming, doesn't it? It's just the standard thing. Like, there's always going to be idiots that are going to hack, even from the days when we used to play Counter-Strike. And you had hackers on servers and that.
Dissy, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the difference. I mean, you're probably going to go into this. Is this hacking you're on about, or general exploiting?
Yeah, hacking to start with, and then I was going to segue into it. So, yeah.
I mean, we've had hacking on BDO before. We all remember certain barcode players, particularly on NA, who would zone off Kazaka, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Just spam with wizards and stuff. So I think there's no game that's impervious to it, particularly at the outset.
Okay, so that segues very nice into my next thing, which I was going to say is obviously then let's move on to the term exploiting. And this has been something which has been going off in the BDO community, and as you've seen on the Discords and Reddits and stuff, this has blown up quite a lot, is the term exploiting and what it really means. So my point of view on the word exploiting is you can exploit things in not necessarily in a positive way, but there's exploiting where you're taking advantage, and there's exploiting which really is sort of breaking the rules. So, just to you two again, in your gaming history, how has you seen, fucking hell, that's terrible. Have you seen many people exploit which has damaged either the game or the economy?
Do you want to go first, Disty?
Yeah, I mean duping's a huge issue in many games. Lots of MMOs have suffered from it, and usually it's traced and sorted out. But if you have large scale exploiting, particularly in fragile economies, you can have serious impact on gameplay and the community as a whole.
Hello?
Exploiting. I've always treated it a bit more like a community decision. So, like, there's been plenty of it was considered exploiting in games, but I think that genuinely what tends to happen is the community of a game decides what exploiting is, and it tends to be things that destroy the economy or things that give people an unfair advantage over others. And that, I think, is kind of my roundabout way of understanding exploiting, because I feel that some people can exploit a mechanic in a game and people are okay with it, and then there's other people who do exploit in the game and the community will genuinely uprise and say this is out of line, basically.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And again, that works very nicely into obviously the whole issue with the Afuaru's map. Now, for anyone listening to this, and obviously you hear me saying what is the Afuaru map and the drama around it, I'm going to just shamelessly plug the video I've got just before this, which does actually say exactly what the drama is. But just to recap, Cacao released a bit of content for new and returning players, which when they leveled up, they could get something called an Afuaru's map, which then they could go do with a guild, which would reward every single person who took advantage. Now, this is obviously a mechanic, which is basically there to help returning players get into guilds and have a bit of fun and bring them together. Now, what some people did was find a loophole in the system as such, where they made hundreds of accounts, invited them to their guild, quickly had them in, kicked them out, and just basically spammed a load of scrolls where they were making billions an hour. And everyone's seen the famous pictures of where certain guilds have got literally hundreds of members join, then leave one after the other, and seeing people's inventories after 3 hours having about 5+ billions worth of loot. So one of the things that I was going to talk about is how much we see this as being an exploit, or if this is people just taking advantage of the situation. where I want to talk about this longer, obviously Kakao have since came out and said they pretty much see this as an exploit as such, so I don't want to go into it too much, but for the sake of obviously trying to have a fulfilled conversation here, Disney, what's your views on it thus far? As in, does it go between being an exploit, or are these just people who have been really smart and seen a loophole?
A bit of both, really. I certainly think, in the spirit of things, it is an exploit. I mean, they knew what they were doing; they were taking advantage of a system. I think the only thing that needs to be said about it, in context of this is an exploit and how bad of an exploit, is the fact that we had obviously the sharp shard incident when people were digging. Now that was almost like a bit of bad coding, really. Do you know what I mean? That was an easy oversight that could happen, and people took advantage of that, and that is very clearly defined an exploit. In this, however, though, there is a certain amount of responsibility I think that Pearl Abyss have to take on this, or video creators, whereby they just didn't think through the mechanic easy enough. We can talk and discuss millions of ways how they can be better implemented if they were what they were trying to achieve, but they left it wide open to be exploited. And I think there's a certain amount of responsibility they have as well for that.
Lane, what do you think?
Just bloody stupid. That's what I think. This happened in Korea as well, and they didn't fix it when they brought it over to NAEU. I just don't understand it can be that dumb. And I don't understand as well how these guilds and streamers, and I won't name who they are, can be even more dumb. If you play any game in the world, regardless if it be BDO or FPSs or any MMO or any kind of game that's online and competitive, which BDO is, it's PvP at the end of the day and siege scene and etc. If you find you're making exorbitant amounts of money on doing something which clearly involves a mechanic which is outside or beyond what is expected of any normal player, making hundreds of accounts to exploit clearly a development loophole, and as Disty said, there's a lot to be said for the Q&A that Kakao do. But let's be honest, you've got to be downright stupid as a player not to think that you're going to get it. Because whether you think it's an exploit or not, the court of public opinion is going to string you up. And that's exactly what's happened. Exactly the same thing happened to another streamer when they abused the worker mechanic on nodes a while back, and they got caught on stream with it. And they were kind of playing dumb and playing stupid. I don't think their audience has ever come back again. And it's ruined their shit. And I just don't understand how people can be this dumb not to think, especially in the game like an MMO, when people start complaining on Discord and in forums, you are going to get lynched, and that's exactly what's happened and exactly what they deserve. It's just common sense, and ultimately they'll get what they deserve.
Yeah, I would just to add on to that. Yeah, I do agree with that, because the thing is, you've got a part of it in the community outcry is the fact that everyone's asking themselves, if your guild leader turned around and said, "Oh, this is what we got to do. We've got to make hundreds of level 49 alts, stick all these scrolls in here. We're going to make billions." You're gonna have some questions in the back of your head about the legitimacy of it.
Yeah, completely.
So
if you're a streamer, it's your career. Like, why on earth would you then go, "Oh yeah, this is okay. This is fine. Yeah, this is my career. This is what feeds my family. I'm gonna go into this and do this and not think I need to distance myself from this. Like, they're my friends, they're in my guild, but I'm gonna distance myself from this and just not get involved. And when it blows up, which inevitably it will, I can cleanse myself of it. But to then involve yourself so much, it just defies belief. It really does.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way of putting it, to be fair. And just obviously going into, like I said, I don't want to go too much into obviously whether we think it's an exploit, because I think it's clear all of us here think it is an exploit of some sort. I'd say it's definitely taking advantage, and that's what annoyed me when several streamers said, "Oh, we're just taking advantage of a situation," which, it was abnormal, and that's the thing that they said in their patch notes as well. Even if you didn't look at the fact it's happened before and Kakao have punished for it before, it does say any abnormal way of finding out, of getting this reward will be punished. Now, what they turn around and said is, a couple of these big guilds say, we spend 10 hours a day farming, which some people would say is abnormal. So why is there a difference as spending 10 hours farming or if we were spending 10 hours making new accounts? Now, for me, my personal view is that's not 10 hours of playing the game. That's 10 hours of fucking admin. Going onto the Kakao site, putting a new email address in every time to re-get a game code, getting invited, that doesn't strike me as playing. And I'd say it's definitely unfair gaming to a major extent here. So I don't know if
definitely.
you guys feel the same on that.
Well, the audio as well incriminated them even more because they.
Yeah, well, we're going to go into that. So.
Oh, we're going to move on to that.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Well, then
it's on the list.
Seriously, like even comparing the idea of making that many accounts to exploit that mechanic, and then comparing that to just simply grinding, whether you like it or not, grinding. There's X amount of reward designed in the mechanics of BDO and any MMO that says if a person does this for X amount of time, they gain this amount of money or this amount of gear, and the economy churns on that. If you start changing that mechanic by giving people even more money for less time, you shift the balance of the economy and you start breaking the mechanics of the game. And that's the biggest problem that happens when you start to exploit in an MMO. Because if you like it or not, every MMO has an economy, an ecology of money that runs through the game, and it's balanced constantly. As soon as you start exploiting that, which is essentially what you're doing, you're gaining more money. You're cheating the system. It's almost like in the real world trying to cheat the markets, insider trading. You mess them up. You mess up those markets and you make the game harder for other people, and you break the mechanics of what's going on. It's going to cost Cacao money as well, because if people are running around with billions of cash, they're going to buy costumes, they're going to buy different things off the market that actually they probably might have bought because they didn't have the patience to wait. And that's another problem for Cacao, because those exploits can hit the bottom line.
Yeah, I was going to say also one of the things you may not have known when you looked at the loot as well, they did drop Valk's Cries, and Valk's Cries. Basically, you can only get them from melting costumes. In theory, we have been getting a lot from events, so there is actually, in theory, a cash value to those items. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely not on there. Dis, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, very much the same. I mean, I'll be the first to say I don't enjoy grinding as much as some other people, but at the same time, it's literally like the bread and butter of the game, and comparing that activity to grinding is ridiculous.
Okay, so let's just have a very quick chat or overview about how we think Cacao have reacted to this and the speed that they've reacted to it. So I think it's fair to say this came out sort of publicly in the, as a EU NA scene about 3 days ago, and 1 day ago Cacao then said that they were stopping, or they warned people not to use the scrolls. Then later on that day they said the scrolls are no longer working, and now this morning / last night they've said obviously they're going to be actions taken. So what do you think of the speed and how they've done this? So Disty, you first.
I mean, we all agree. Well, we might be in agreement that I don't think it should have ever got to this stage. They should have reacted a lot quicker, or not prevented it from happening. But other than that, it seems to be a fair response. It's difficult to, no one's ever going to be very happy with the situation anyway. And then how it's resolved, I think, just come to a head, and then there's going to be a lot of unhappy people either way on it.
Yeah. Lane?
The real question I have is, would Cacao have done anything if there wasn't a public outcry?
Oh,
that's the real crux of it. That is the real crux of it, because they're reacting to a player base that's now up in arms. But actually, if they had kept this quiet and not bragged about it, arguably, would Cacao have actually done anything? Would we have had another insidious exploit in the market? Because the problem with this game, problem with BDO, is the siege scene and obviously guilds, and it's all about power, it's all about levels, it's all about pens and gear, and ultimately money rules all. And the more money you can make, obviously, the more powerful your guild can be, etc., etc. It would be very interesting, even though I think, like Disty said, I think it's okay Cacao's reacted the way they have. They haven't rushed it. They've looked at the evidence. They've taken their time. They've listened to the public outcry, and then they've reacted, which is a sensible way to do it. You don't want to be knee-jerk reacting to things like this. But I still wonder, and I'm still curious why they didn't react to this problem when it happened in Korea already. It doesn't make any sense. This happened in Korea. And it's now happened here, and I just don't understand why they didn't react to it long before this ever got to this point.
Let's be honest and frank as well, though. They reacted to it because it was a player issue that's caused a stir in the community, not themselves. We've known before where the community's kind of tried to revolt against decisions they've made, and they've not paid any attention to it. So it's definitely the circumstances around it.
Yeah, that's true. So let's move on then to... I've got two topics I want to go over, and I'm not quite sure the order. One is the potential punishments and what we think, well, what Cacao have done in the past versus what we think, or talking about the reaction and the chat, basically, that some of these high-level players have been recorded saying and their views. So, up to you two. Which would you prefer to go into first?
I think it'll have to be the chat, surely.
It's sort of, they're kind of linked a little bit there.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to see if there is a greater repercussion because of some of the leaked audio.
Okay, so in that case, let's go to the leaked audio then. So, for those who don't know, in fact, I'll probably put a link in the bottom of the stream. I can't imagine that causing too much upset. It probably will, but never mind. And what you can clearly hear is some very top-end players in the NA scene talking about how, one, they, quote-unquote hearing saying that they don't care if their account gets banned anyway, because, let's be fair, too cool for school, obviously. But also then some weird bragging rights of going, well, if they can't kick us anyway, or they can't ban us anyway, because at the end of the day, if they get rid of us, the Siege scene would be dead and stuff like this, which is, there's two questions to that. Is one, does that justify potentially a harsher award? Because at the end of the day, should a game really be beholden to a small group of players? And two, we could even talk about how we think the Siege scene would be if we got rid of some potentially higher geared players or people with that attitude. So I'll open that up to either of you if you want to jump on that.
I just can't believe some of the things they were saying on the audio. Just defies belief, the arrogance and the stupidity. And honestly, it shocks me that people are this ignorant or this arrogant about an online game and the way that they think the scene. I mean, they quoted along the lines of the Siege scene will die if we get banned. I mean, I've been playing video for a long, long time, in Europe, and I remember Grind, and I remember all those guilds that were in the big Siege scene, and then, we got Sovereign and all those guilds as well that were in the Siege scene. It's never died. It might have got quieter, but it just means that more guilds get an opportunity to rise up the ranks, and it actually makes it more interesting, because I don't know what's happening here in EU, but I know in America there's been a lot of rotation going on, where people are just rotating castles over and over, which just leads to a stagnant boring, and people are just getting billions and billions and billions from it. If anything, it would make the Siege scene better, and it would improve it massively for the other smaller guilds.
Dis, what do you think? Both about the Siege scene and about the stuff said on the comms and...
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think the difficulty having the conversation is, devil's advocate on it anyway, shall we say. They may be true dependent upon how many people have exploited it. Because obviously Cacao on Pearl Abyss been trying to drive player-based numbers by obviously opening it up to free and etc. and trying to get new recruits in. So if this is a larger proportion of players than we're actually aware of that have participated in this, that may in itself precipitate a smaller punishment than what some people would be calling for. Not that the players on audio would make a difference in the Siege scene, but if you're talking about quite a few large guilds, like large numbers of their players being banned, often players perhaps that have spent an awful lot of money on the game, supporting the game, so to speak, and be interested to see what Cacao will do with it.
I personally don't think they should be banned. I mean, it sounds dramatic. Yeah. I think it should be... I mean, if they are going to ban them, it should be just like a token ban, like a 72-hour ban or even a week ban or something like that, because let's be honest, that isn't going to hit them. What needs to happen reliably is that the cash that they made from the Afuaru maps, and it's easy to get out of databases, and the items they got, they need to be all removed. And if they've spent the money on market items or other people, other items for people, those people should be fine who got the cash for the item that's sold to them, but that item should be removed and they should then be deducted the cash that they got. So let's say, for example, they made 5 billion, for example, one of them, and they bought a TET item. They should lose the TET item and they should be deducted 5 billion from their cash. And if it puts them in negative, it puts them in negative. But there needs to be a strong message that ultimately in a complicated game like BDO, you're never going to be able to avoid potential exploits, especially when you're introducing so many new classes, so many new mechanics. I think that's what should happen. I mean, if they give them a ban forever, fine. But like Disty said, some of them might be whales, so they're making a lot of money for Cacao, and ultimately the commercial team are going to sit there and go, do we really want to lose this person who's, feeding our bottom line every month? I don't think they will.
So on that, just before we obviously discuss about punishment, so let me just quickly go over what happened in Korea. So there was basically two to three punishments, depending on how you look at it. The first punishment that everyone got was however much money they made from the event. Obviously, everything had a cash value in game. There was a deduction of that money on their account, but multiplied by 3. So if you'd made, say, for instance, 15 billion out of the account, which, we've just seen people do it for 3 hours and get 5 billion, so that is pretty easily done for these guys to get about 15 bill, they'd have a deduction on their account of 45 billion, and the game would allow them to go into negative equity in the game, aka any money that they made going forward would just get taken away from this amount. Now, if you think about that in theory, that makes a lot of the game exceptionally hard, because think about trying to buy pots. You wouldn't be able to buy pots unless you're buying it from the
kill
guild.
the game for them, surely.
Well, I mean,
how would you
could easily sell a few items. Keep in mind, these guys are all fully pen geared. With Kafra, so I'm pretty sure it is recoverable, but it would definitely take them out of the top end playing scene with items. So, and that's the first punishment, or that the Koreans had. So let's take that with a pinch of salt. The second was anyone who participated in the event itself, as in, of the guilds, and they had all these scrolls done. Anyone who participated and obviously got a lot of money out of it got a 7-day ban. The people that were found to be making all the accounts, so I'm presuming, and you two will know, or Lone, you especially will know more about how to do this than I do, because I'm guessing it would be off of IP. The people were found to be making lots of accounts. They ended up getting a 30-day ban.
Based off IP, that would.
Yeah. So what do we think of those for punishment? So, Dis, do you want to jump in that first?
It does sound a little excessive to me. I don't know. I mean, again, it will depend on what exactly the numbers are and how much they've made, etc. It just say a little bit unplayable. It almost feels a little bit too harsh to me. But again, it depends on the community's reaction and how much kind of blood they want out of this. The one thing I would be concerned about is if there are genuine new players with it that have been caught in the crossfire a little bit. And I think that would be incredibly unfair on them. You could imagine some people like ninjing players into guilds, etc., again, to run it on top. I don't know how widespread that would be, particularly not in the top end guilds, but I certainly think that you'd be a concern for those new players as well.
No?
Yeah, I agree. I think there needs to be a careful measurement of what they do. Like, I think the reality is that people that were creating the accounts, kind of doing all of that, should be ultimately receive the brunt of the punishment. I'm not even sure if putting them in debt is a good idea. I just think taking away items that they have or items that they made. The idea is you want to put them back to where they were, but provide a punitive attachment to what they did as well. So you don't want to cripple them, because ultimately, for them, their bottom line is what matters. And if these people are making the money, you don't want to sort of ruin that aspect. And I know, obviously, from a community perspective, but the thing that's going to come out of this, which is going to be punishment enough anyway, and I even heard one of the streamers that were involved in it was talking about it anyway, the guilds are dead. They're dead. And the players who are involved in those guilds, their reputation is dead. And that's punishment enough, I think, in a way. They still obviously need to lose the money that they got, and there needs to be that kind of aspect of it. But the ultimate price they're going to pay is their reputation, and it's gonna and it'll follow them forever. Who will want to be in a guild with those people? You're like, oh, you're the guys that did that massive exploit. Oh yeah, you're the cheaters, and you'll never be able to lose that. And that's the biggest thing. I think the biggest shame for those people is in MMOs, very much in life, your reputation is everything. And when you choose to do these sort of things, you're not just going to get banned from the game potentially. You're going to lose your reputation in the game, and ultimately, if everyone thinks you're a cheater, I think that's worse in a way.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here myself. What about the people, if you could definitely identify, say, for instance, who the people were who were saying the whole, almost making it sound like they were above the rules of Cacao and untouchable, do you think they should have the same or potentially worse punishment?
I'd say worse.
Yeah?
Myself. Their attitude stunk. I wouldn't want players like that in my game, especially not at the top. No way. God, can you imagine being in their guild, those arrogant idiots? Jesus, what a nitmare. It'd be an absolute nightmare. they honestly believe that that's the world. They almost act like the world owed them something. It's just embarrassing. It must be embarrassing, honestly, to be like that. But I guess there are people like in this world. But I think those people, if they can be identified, like you said, should take the brunt of it. And I think Disney made a really good point. If there are newer players that got caught in this, I don't think it's fair. Ultimately, they're new. Ultimately, they don't know much about the game. They're listening to people who are far more experienced. I don't know if it's right to punish them as much because, in their case, they were ignorant in a way. But that's what I think.
Yeah, I think I especially agree with that. Make sure that the new players don't get hurt in the crossfire. Then again, saying that, I can't imagine many of them would, because in my mind they'll be looking at people who have looted a quote unquote abnormal amount of chests. Now, in my humble opinion, given that guilds have a maximum cap of 100 people, if say for instance your guild had an average of 90 people in, I wouldn't expect more than 10 chests or 10 new players worth of chests to be put in. So 40 chests, for instance. That to me would seem almost fine, because then you're filling up those spaces. I think when it's when you're in the guilds who have just bought people in and kicked them out, that's when it gets. I'm hoping that there's going to be no new players caught in this. And I think if anyone's listening to this and does get caught as a new player, definitely just let Cacao know, because I can't imagine that you'd be a target for any repercussions from this. That would be my thought. So closing thought. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was saying that. Can you imagine those who would do the exploit quite happy to start being as well?
Oh God, yeah.
I do think the one with the about the people in the audio as well, it's kind of essentially the punishment should be enough of a deterrent as it is. I mean, I can understand the kind of the outcry from what they were saying. I also think there's a certain element of how far does that punishment go? Do you individually target people, and how to extent is someone part of that audio worse than someone else's? The discussion. Don't be wrong, I don't want toxic people in the game either, but it's people's choice to play with them, or and they're defined by that. I don't necessarily think there should be an extreme amount of targeting. I think the punishment itself should be enough of a deterrent by itself.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. So what I was going to say is, with regards to some closing remarks here, because funnily enough, we've been going for nearly half an hour, strangely enough.
Wow.
And for people that have made it through this far, thank you very much. Obviously, there's going to be a backlash here, because some of the people involved are, and this is a potentially funny ground for me to get involved in, but luckily, because I'm not partnered with anyone or any affiliation to Back Does It Online anyway, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, what do you think the action should be for these people that are partnered? Because surely that's got to be a bit of a slap in the face to Cacao, because at some point you've got to think, and some of these streamers were kind of almost bragging how they've spoke to people who they know who work and they said it's fine, etc., etc. Do you think there should be additional sort of repercussions to that as well?
I spent a day watching one of the streamers that is involved in this. We obviously won't name names, but he's quite a well-known streamer in the video. He's had his ups and downs. I'll be honest with you, he kind of fell on his sword today. He was quite humble about the whole situation, and accepted that the opinion that he had, or the attitude that he had, was the wrong one. I think there was a bit of peer pressure there, and I don't mean directly. I mean kind of they were his friends and in the guild, and he kind of felt obligated to defend them. It's just a shame, really. I feel a bit. I don't know. Maybe it's my soft heart. But I feel a bit sorry for him, because in a way, he is a BDO partner, and ultimately they could take that away from him now, and that's potentially his career in a way, that because he's streamed BDO for a long, long time. I think someone like that who has that platform, it's easier for them to sort of show that humble and the apology, and maybe it's a lesson learned. I think ultimately his audience will decide the punishment that needs to go there. But I don't know. I think maybe it's going to come out again at the promotional aspects of Cacao, and I hate to say this, but it does come down to money and how much those people are doing for them. And really, I think right now it's down to those streamers to keep quiet or to actually show some kind of remorse in what they do and go forward from there.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Disty, what's your views on it?
Very much the same. I think fundamentally, though, the interesting point of all this is the fact that we're talking about different levels of punishment being leveled out, etc. We aren't really going to know. The streamers can easily turn around and say, yeah, I've had this and that, etc. But unless they can show like good evidence of punishment on stream or whatever, we just have to take Cacal's word or their word at the fact that they've been punished. So a lot of it in the community is just a confidence thing in how it's been handled, and that the punishment has been leveled out and been leveled out appropriately.
So do you both think, just almost one of the last questions, people who are partners should be held accountable to a high level because of their affiliation with Cacao or Riot?
Definitely. I mean, it's your career. I mean, come on. Like, why on earth would you ever involve yourself in something that you clearly, even if it's a little bit of an exploit, you just step well away from it, no matter who the people involved are, because they might just lose their reputation and walk away from it, but you're going to lose your revenue income and also your reputation. The person that streamer who originally was doing it, he got caught out a long time ago and he's kind of come back now, but he's never come back from it fully. So. Difficult.
But I think that's the part of the process, though, is the damage has been done to an extent. So whether or not they deserve a stronger punishment than being kind of almost publicly shamed by the community and perhaps by Cacao or Perlabes is up for session. But I don't necessarily think they deserve like a stronger thing, because their punishment already is because there's many people who have exploited this. This is not just the streamers and the partners, but they will have their punishment, but it won't be such in public view.
I don't think it should be any different to anyone else's. I think they should be treated the same, because ultimately their additional punishment will come from their audiences.
Yeah.
That seems fair. Last question for both of you, and then I promise I'll let you go and you can enjoy the rest of your evening. Don't you think Taboo would make a great partner for BDO?
That is so unsubtle.
What? How did that question get in there? You can answer it now. I'll give you a clue. If you don't say yes, I'll just mute this out anyway.
Oh, clearly. I don't understand why they haven't made you a partner.
Yeah, good. Just see, what do you think?
I mean, you've not got a good track record of exploiting stuff, mate. I think you've really got to up your game in.
Yeah, true. If anyone knows a good exploit for me to do, then it will help me get some more money as well, and I'll be even more popular.
If you exploit, you'd be a true BDOer then, wouldn't you?
I mean, I think you're missing like a little question there, if I've got to jump in, mate, quickly.
Oh, yeah?
How do you feel that, obviously, if the Cacao or Perlabes don't punish this, or do you think that the community will forget this?
I think my view is, because obviously I know a couple of streamers and such who are on both sides of this, funnily enough, which is why in the first video I was quite, not necessarily unbiased, but it was more informative. I think because of the politics behind this, some people are never going to forget it because it's too much of a big thing for them, aka the guild drama and stuff between two big guilds. And you know what it's like in NA, in the siege scene, there's a lot of like smack talk and stuff, and I think this will always be used as a, if you beat us, it's because you found ways to hack or exploit and get more armor. That's going to be a thing, which is why I agree with this concept of some of the guild's reps are going to be quite badly damaged. It's easy enough to make another one. At the end of the day, it's easy enough to change your family name. It's nothing's really going to be so permanent. But following on what Lone says, certain streamers who have been caught out in the past before have really struggled to come back in sort of relative levels of popularity, and any time they do, the chats just turn into, oh, remember that time when you did this, and it does hurt. So I personally think that some of these people should have known better. Obviously it's always easier to say that in hindsight, and I'm fully aware of that, but I just think if anyone says to you, let's take advantage of this event and do something which seems really wrong, for me, common sense would come in. But again, it's easy to say that in hindsight. So obviously, I've not exploited enough to know too much more about it.
Nice.
Yeah, I do think it's one of those things where I think there's a huge outcry at the minute. But let's be honest, I think the BDO community will soon forget it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think so as well. Just something. I think it's something. My final thing is just something I think Cacao needs to get better with their Q&A and just use their brains a bit more.
Yeah. Or even reaching out to some of these people. To be fair, there's no reason why they can't reach out to some of their partners and stuff and put some of these ideas past them. And because I'm not going to lie, some of these guys are in top end guilds, and we know from our own personal experience, from people we know in top end guilds, they're always thinking of ways to, and I don't want to say cut corners in a negative way, because 90% of the time or 95% of the time what they're doing is completely legit and super smart, and they don't share it for very good reasons because it gives them that edge. But it would seem like it would be not a bad thing to maybe pass it by some of these people and say, if you saw this, what do you think? What could it be done? Because it's community engagement. But then again, that goes to the thing of how much power, say for instance, our devs and stuff have compared to the developers in Korea.
I think it wraps up nicely.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, Disty. Thank you very much, Lone. Both of you have been fantastic. Thank you for your opinions. And I think we've pretty much all agreed with most of it anyway. Bad people will always get punished. You will end up always getting caught. Don't bother trying to cheat the system. Cacao watches everything. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you liked this, obviously like and subscribe. And don't forget, you could always start the new trending, topic of, taboo for partner. Let's be fair. By the sounds of it, they might need a few more. So, I shouldn't say that really. I know, awful. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. Take care. Bye.